Yoshi saves the day.
Yoshi saves the day. Chapter 6. They get to another pipe, which will take them to Yoster Island, and nothing happens. They get there fine.
They meet with some Yoshis. They're all doing pretty well. The Yoshis all speak in perfect English. Oh wait, no, they don't. They Oh no, I get confused. Mario called out to a green dinosaur. Yoshi, it's me, Mario. Yoshi turned and smiled happily. The little dinosaur bound. Okay, so no, the Yoshis don't talk. The Yoshis just emote. There we go. I got a bit confused there.
They're like dogs mostly.
Yeah.
So Mario takes the Yoshi and not the Yoshi. This is clearly Yoshi. This is
Yoshi.
This is Yoshi before we determined that Yoshi was it was part of a species, a greater species of Yoshis that are all called Yoshi. So he takes the/a Yoshi and leaves Luigi and Toad behind. And they're like, we're going to go get the mushroom. And they go up to the top of the hill. And they find the blue mushroom. But just then, Lackey 2's attack. And they got the spiny balls are flying down. And Mario, I guess he got the hammer from one of the Hammer brothers, starts using the hammer as if he's back in Donkey Kong days and just breaking.
Back.
Yep. He's breaking those balls. He's a ball breaker. And then Yoshi jumps up in the air and he eats the clouds that the Lackey 2s are using, and they fall out of the sky. So that's clever. It's a clever way to deal with that.
Exactly. That is they have got air advantage. So as long as you eliminate that, that's all you need to do.
That's all you need to do. They get back down and talk to Toad and Luigi, and they see the next clue. And the next clue is mine. And they're like, the next clue is yours. No, it's mine. Whose clue is it?
No, what? Who's on first?
No, what's... I don't know who's on third. So Mario said they would never find the next mushroom until the next chapter.
Well, it's good because the next chapter is called The End. So we've done it, folks.
We've done it.
We've got to the end of the... Even though this is a 46-page book, this is only page 20 or so. So pretty good, all things considered.
Pretty good. It's pretty efficient to get to the end of the book.
Yeah, nice typing. The rest of the book just must be a bunch of, Zippo lighter adverts and X-ray glasses sent off a voucher farm.
Right in for this... solve this clue and get an entry into winning these Nintendo systems.
There's the rest of it. It's just all missed connections. You were reading a copy of Mario and the Magic Maze. I was on the other side of the library in Pittsburgh. Please email.
The year 1997.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this was published in 2006, but all the messages are from 97. Yeah, they're all misconnections from 97. I think that you were the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I was here with the UN as well. Please get back in contact with me.
So it's the end. It's the end of the book. Yoshi, Yoshi figures out the clue.
Yes.
Yoshi figures out the clue, and he points down at the ground, and Mario's like, it's underground.
It's a mine, not mine.
It's a mine, not mine. The mines are right here in Moleville. So they go to the mines, and on their way to the mines, they run into a chain chomp. And this guy is, he's a feisty boy. Mario realizes, though, that he's not angry at them. He's angry at his situation. And he jumps on the back of the chain chomp. He speaks to the inner baby chain chomp inside the chain chomp, the puppy chomp, and practices his animal husbandry. And he unchains the chain chomp. And everybody's freaked out. Like, what's going to happen here? And then the chain chomp calms down and just rolls away.
Yeah, he's done. He's like, I'm all right. I'm just gonna chill.
I'm all right now. Thank you. How are you? And then they continue on to the mine.
Do you know what the story is for why the Chain Chomp exists as a character in Mario?
No. Is it like half of a bullet bill or something?
No. So it's either Miyamoto or it's Tezuka who had this story, but it was like when they were a kid walking home from school, one of their neighbors had just a big ass dog that was like incredibly aggressive. So the dog would like run full pelt at the kid. And then the chain would yank it back. Like it was just on a short enough leash that it would never like kind of attack. And rather than thinking like, oh God, that dog's being kept in bad conditions, just like 30, 20 odd years after the fact, they went, that'd be a good Mario enemy. Let's write him in. It's the same thing with the ghost. Well, funnily enough, the ghosts are in this book. So boos from Mario are based on Takashi Tezuka's wife, who, when they met her in person, she was like a quiet, incredibly shy, timid
and then
woman.
Behind closed doors was like abusive.
Well, whenever he worked late, she'd ring in and be like, what the fuck are you? Get home immediately. This would be really aggressive too. And then rather than being like, oh wow, maybe there's something going on, where you found Miyamoto was just like, that's funny as fuck. We're putting that in Mario 3.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we're putting those in as ghosts. That's funny as fuck.
She's an enemy now in my Mario game.
Yeah, we'd send your wife into a not just a single character, but a multitude of ghosts in Mario.
What was that short film? Do you ever see that short film where it was about like a young George Lucas walking around like this campus of Stanford or whatever, and everything he sees is like something that would something that would like inspire Star Wars or Indiana Jones or something like that. And I just imagine that for Miyamoto, and everything he sees is like going into Super Mario Brothers.
I mean, that is what he was like. Like the ring, like flying through rings and Star Fox was based on like a New Year's tradition where you go to like Japanese temples and you walk. Like the pathways have these like kind of gates overhead, and he was like, "Huh, what if I was a plane doing this? That might be a fun game." Kind of thing.
That might be a fun video game.
Yeah. When he was a kid, he went cave exploring and, he found fun caves, and then the internet historian ripped that off for his video, but we can't talk about that. Got that out. I'm now plagiarizing H-Bomber guy.
Oh, boy. Plagiarism, huh? All right.
Love it.
We love it. We love it.
Yoshi
here,
yips questioningly and looks at Mario. Yeah.
So they continue on, and they find the mine, and they get into a mine cart, and they ride that mine cart on down, and they find mushroom number 5.
Yep. And another clue.
And another clue. And it's just, the clue is, this is an actual, like, oh, this is a neat clue. So it's numbers, and then under it says 1 to 26, and they figure, well, what's 26 long? And that's letters. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. Yep. So I figured it's just like a number replacement thingy, and it's Booster Pass, is where they got to go. But on the way, they get attacked by Koopa paratroopers. Oh, no. And the pouch gets knocked out of Mario's hand. And down into a ravine. Which brings us to Chapter 8, which is probably your favorite chapter.
So this is why you asked me on this episode, right?
This is why, clearly. This is why I asked you on the episode, is Chapter 8, watch out for Wario.
Now, this is why I said I don't think she played that far into Mario RPG, because Wario is not in. Booster Pass is. There is a character called Booster who looks a bit like Wario, but Wario himself is not in Mario RPG.
Would Super Mario RPG have been like a much better game with Wario in it? Yes, clearly.
Absolutely. This is a reference to another SNES game, though, which when we get to it, I'll mention what. But they lose the mushrooms. But then they get the mushrooms back, so it's not too bad, I guess.
It's not too bad. They lower Toad.
They lower Toads from Breaking Bad. It's good connections.
They lower Toad down into the ravine where the mushrooms fell, and he gets them. And they continue along, and then a bucket falls on Mario's head.
Yes.
And Mario's like, that can only mean one thing. My sworn arch enemy.
So, do you know why he drops a bucket on his head?
I don't know.
So this is a reference to a video game that no one has ever played from 1995 called
Which I'm
Mario.
sure you've played, though.
Oh, of course I have. Mario and Wario. Not Mario versus Wario. Mario and Wario for the SNES. One of the first games that Game Freak made for Nintendo. Before Pokemon, this was something that was contracted out to them. It is basically Nintendo's version. It's like Nintendo saw the success of Lemmings and said, oh yeah, we can fart one of these out. Just put
we can do that.
Yeah, fuck. We'll fucking sleepwalk through this easy, which is ironic considering that it is a game which is about Wario in his purple biplane drops buckets on the heads of Nintendo characters, and then they just start walking forward. And then you, as a fairy, have to use your magic wand to fill in blocks to basically make platforms and get them to the end of the level, essentially. It's a cute idea. It is also like the most ambient video game. It is so like low stakes.
Right.
Very much so. But yeah, obviously Tracy Wesher is like, oh, I can't take everything from Mario RPG. What else have I got on my SNES? Oh, for some reason I have Mario. And and that was another thing as well. One of the other games that supported the SNES mouse, apart from Mario Paint, was for some reason Mario and Wario, which was again because it was like Lemmings, I guess. Yeah, because you're kind of using
you need to kind of click around and stuff. Yeah. But that's interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of a, like I said, just kind of as an outlier in sort of Nintendo's kind of games. And again, it's like one of the first Game Freak games. It is interesting, but it is also like not as good as Lemmings.
Right. And that does sound like, because like Lemmings was not that interesting ultimately. It was a game. The only time I ever played Lemmings was if I was in like a computer class.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like the teacher's like, yeah, you have a free day today. And all the Macs were loaded up with Lemmings for some reason. So you could just like kind of just sit there and fuck about with Lemmings.
That's funny that you say that, because I think Lemmings is one of the first computer games I played. And it's literally because when I was a kid, I didn't have I had like an old fashioned Macintosh, like I had my dad's hand-me-down, and one of the only few video games that would run on it was Lemmings, because I think DMA was just like, oh, let's put this on every particular device that we can, which includes the Mac, which doesn't have any games on it. And so Christmas Lemmings I think came out like the year I was born, and so I mean I'm not saying that I came out and played Lemmings immediately, but it was one of the first games I played.
And you know who made Lemmings?
Yeah, Rockstar North, DMA Designs.
Rockstar North. DMA Design, which eventually became Rockstar North. Interesting.
Famously as well, they did make a game for Nintendo, which was Uni Racers, and then it got pulled off shelves because Pixar were like, hey, that guy looks like our fucking unicycle character. We're going to sue you for every dollar you owe.
Amazing. So the Lemmings. Also, speaking of things that were victimized by Walt Disney, Lemmings, which do not actually run off cliffs. They were just pushed off cliffs for a nature
They were chased off by Walt was the guy who was doing.
Walt was the one who was doing it. Yeah,
he was blowing cigarette smoke in their little faces.
And if you look closely, you can see Roy Disney in the background just saying, Walt, what are you doing? And Walt's like, it's for the picture. Roy.
Get them furry fucks down. Well, what does it? No, well, he didn't sound like it. He wasn't because he was a hayseed, wasn't he? He was from like Kentucky, right?
Yeah. I just imagined though he sounded like exactly what you said when the cameras weren't rolling. Like I'm chomping on this cigar.
I'm a fucking movie guy.
Hey, pizza.
Pizza. Speaking of pizza. Wario. Give it up, Mario. Wario called down. Bowser's going to give me a lot of money if I bring you to him. You might as well just surrender. So again, Wario, very good characterization. He's not really evil. He's just in it for the bag.
He's in it as a mercenary in this story. Doesn't care about the politics, doesn't get involved. They solve the Wario conundrum though by
throwing the bucket on his head.
Yeah, Mario grabs a bucket and with Yoshi jumps higher than the plane because it's a low flying plane. He's crop dusting and he drops the bucket on Wario's head and Wario loses control of the plane and disappears over the horizon.
He Michael Jordan's him. He slam dunks
that bucket right on his head. And then they grab the final mushroom and a bright light fills the ravine leading to chapter 9 where they fast travel to Bowser Keep because
yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
which is even like Tracy's like, oh, don't worry, we're nearly done. No more puzzles as well. Like those are done now.
We're
1
done.
to 26. That was a bit too much for you, so don't worry, we're not doing those again.
We're in a real Scooby-Doo of a chapter 9 ghosts.
Yes.
And they're at Bowser Keep and they are wow, they're woozy and all that. And then they're like, we're here. And then they run up to the gate and then the ghosts attack them. Yes. And steal the pouch. And they're tossing it around. And then Luigi overcomes his fear of ghosts and gets the pouch back. At one point, Yoshi tries eating a ghost. There's a moment earlier where Yoshi's like trying to figure out what a ghost might taste like. That Mario kind of reads, like he's like, oh yeah, I don't know what they taste like, Yoshi, and then Yoshi tries to eat it later and can't. So
never any payoff to that.
Never any payoff to that. Yoshi eats it, and then for his first words, he starts summoning Cthulhu, and his eyes roll back into his head. And
I played that ROM hack. It's not good.
It's not good. And he stares right into the camera, and then there's a bunch of jump scares.
Oh shit! His eyes start bleeding somehow.
His eyes start bleeding,
and it looks really realistic.
And then Sonic.exe shows up,
and then I get the game cartridge from my best friend Billy. Despite the fact that he's now a 40-year-old man, he still calls himself Billy.
He's Billy, my best friend. It was his cartridge.
Yeah, it was Billy's cartridge. I do like the fact as well. It's like just laughing about just Mario saying normal sentences. Luigi's just like, Mario the ghost, and then Mario just goes, "You got to do it, Luigi."
You have to do it. Luigi, you must try. You got to try.
You have to do it, Luigi, says Mario.
in his John Hamm ass voice.
Yeah, when's John Hamm playing? When's John Hamm playing live action Mario? It's
oh my god, Wario gets into the elevator with Mario, and Wario's just like, I feel bad for you, Mario, and Mario responds, I don't think about you at all.
Imagine a piece of pasta.
We got to get
the series ends with him on a commune coming up with the Super Mario Brothers theme tune.
Coming up, yes.
I know, coming up with the fucking rap from the Super Mario Super Show. There we go.
That's it.
Captain Lou dances too.
Captain Lou Albano, appears in his visions on the commune. So Luigi gets the pouch back. He overcomes his fear, and he gets the pouch back, and he gives it back to Mario. And Mario's got to line the mushrooms up in just the right order, and then he's got to say the spell. But he can't do it if the ghosts are all over him. So Luigi did his bit, right? Now somebody else has to get over their fear of ghosts, and that's Todd.
Yeah, Todd Howard has to get over his fear of
Todd Howard. Toad Howard is
Toad Howard.
Toad voice. You see that mountain? You can climb it.
It's our first new franchise in 30 years.
Cool. Thank you, Toad.
Thank you, Toad Howard.
Thank you, Toad Howard.
So
why
Toad,
did he make this game for unoptimized computers?
No, we just made a game for new computers.
I don't know. I'm just now imagining Todd Howard, but in the big stupid mushroom hat and just wearing nothing but white linen, like Iranian pants, and just a blue waistcoat with nothing else. But it's just still Todd Howard.
It's still Todd Howard.
Yeah. Oh no.
So Toad gets getting tossed around by the ghosts.
Bullied by the ghosts. Yeah.
Just getting really manhandled. Mario casts a spell, which is eeny, meeny, miny, mo, send the ghosts where bad boos go. And yippity bippity, the ghosts are banished.
They're blown by the color of the rainbow, and they all go aye.
Yeah.
And,
the thing is, the ghosts. What we isn't revealed is that the ghosts were actually just regular folk who hadn't finished their earthly duties, but Mario actually casts them into hell, even though not all of them were destined for hell. So.
They were all unbaptized babies waiting in babies. And then we get to the Pope himself. Chapter 10, Big Bad Bowser. He's here because even though the ghosts have been defeated, there's still Bowser to go.
Pope Bowser. They hear Princess Peach, and she is upstairs in the ceiling in a cage that hung from the ceiling. Back in Super Mario RPG. Metal cage in the ceiling. Super Mario RPG right there. The only bit of Super Mario RPG I have played. By the way,
here's the thing: not to be internet pedant here, but Super Mario RPG right at the beginning, she is tied up in a rope, being held by the ceiling, but they are fighting on metal chandeliers. However,
that's right.
Mario Brothers All Stars, the remake of Super Mario Brothers 1, she is in a big ass cage.
There we go.
So yeah, there we go. So it always comes back to an SNES game somehow.
At some point. I think, what's wild is I think a lot of people forget that Nintendo remade the original Mario games in like the early 90s. Yeah. Like long before remakes were a thing, they remade with the it was like the SNES, it was the Super Mario World artwork they used to remake them, right?
Yeah, well, kind of level of like it doesn't quite look like Super Mario World, but it is like that level of rendering. So yeah, they remade 1 USA and 3, and then they also did Lost Levels, the Japanese version. Then obviously in Japan they flipped that around, and USA was the one that they got. But yeah, I always find that period really weird because they also remade all the Mega Man games on like Mega Drive, being like, "Hey, you probably didn't have an NES, so check all these out, bozo." And
right? Oh yeah, that's right. Because Capcom is like, fuck it, we're not beholden to Nintendo anymore.
No, we can do whatever. But even weirder than that, like Super Castlevania 4 is, all intents and purposes, a remake of Castlevania 1 as well. So like, yeah, people were remaking stuff like pretty like. Basically, after the NES, they were like, "Okay, full on the remake. Let's bring them in, folks.
Let's roll them in, boys."
Yeah.
Yeah, because Super Metroid is...
So that was my theory, was that Super Metroid and A Link to the Past are, like, in my head, Nintendo being like, oh, if we were to make the NES games, like, again for the first time, what would we do differently?
How would we do
Super
it?
Metroid's and like in Super Metroid's case, it makes sense. It's like, oh, well, I'd add a map because, like, no one's going to be able to, we didn't put, like, a paper one in, so it made it confusing, so let's put one in the game.
Right.
And, it's even, like, the same planet that you go to, but they flesh it out a little bit more as well. And then, with, like, Link to the Past, it's like, oh, let's do top-down again, and let's, like, if we made it again, what if it had nicer graphics? And then they decided, oh, let's add a plot to it, and let's actually make it, like, a prequel-sequel to the original one as well. So...
Right.
Yeah, like, I think they were just on that tip of, and, like, Super Mario World itself isn't that different from Super Mario, but even Super Mario Brothers 3 as a concept is like, if we could remake one again, how would we do it, kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, Nintendo were very, like, iterative with, like, how they want.
Yeah, they're not. It's not like they don't really. I mean, it's not like they care a whole lot about story. Clearly,
no continuity.
Or not,
ain't their
maybe
thing.
not. Yeah, not story, but continuity between games. Like, to them, canon is more of like a who the fuck cares type of situation.
It's my favorite thing with the Zelda timeline that like, after Skyward Sword, people were like, you need to tell us what the timeline is. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And he was like, okay, here's the timeline if Ocarina of Time you stayed as an adult.
The
And then here's the one if you...
timeline's choose your own adventure bullshit.
Well, yeah, so the timeline's already stupid because it's like, okay, here's the timeline from the future of Ocarina of Time where he's an adult, and then here's the timeline from when he was a child. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and then here's another timeline that if you had died in Ocarina of Time, here's this new timeline. It's like, hold on, this isn't XCOM. What the fuck you doing? Like, that ain't... And then when they got to Breath of the Wild, they said, oh, yeah, fuck the timeline. Like, yeah, this ain't got nothing to do with the timeline. This is something new.
This is something brand spanking new. Yeah. No,
yeah.
Not many companies. So 2 companies have the balls to say that the bad ending is canon, and that's Nintendo and Firaxis.
Yeah, with XCOM 2, where they said, yeah, nobody beat XCOM 1, so we're going to say the canon ending was you didn't beat XCOM 1.
The canon ending is you lost, you gave up.
The canon ending is that Marvel's Midnight Suns didn't sell as much as we wanted it to. So canon ending with that is everybody lost.
Everybody lost.
I lost.
I lost personally a lot. And obviously Jake Solomon lost.
Yeah. Well, he's off in another company now, isn't he? Or has he retired from games?
I don't know. I feel like he's too young to retire. He's
only in his like early 40s, I think.
Yeah, Sid Meier's still going. So Jake Solomon's got to...
I mean, Sid Meier's like Miyamoto. Like, he won't leave. Like, he'll just die at the job. Like,
he will just die sitting in his office chair.
Well, even more than that, have you heard about... Oh, we'll get to Bowser in a second. Don't you worry, folks. But you know how they design Chimera... Well, apparently, so it's... Firaxis, when they prototype new games, like... Sid Meier built this thing in the 80s that he calls, like, the sandbox, where it's like whenever they want to try a mechanic out, he will just quickly write it in this bit of software, and it will, like, give them a bunch of data and a bunch of demonstrations of how it worked. And that's how they did Chimera Squad, was like, they weren't sure if the mixed up turn order would work. The next company was like, oh, Geezer's like 10 minutes and I'll write it up. And, like, literally had a working prototype working of it. And they were like, oh yeah, like, all of Firaxis' games from Civ 1 have used Mia's sandbox for, like, prototyping, and it's like,
yeah,
huh. So yeah, I just imagine that, like, the day that he dies, like, they'll find him in the office, but he has written himself into his own sandbox, so he's gonna live forever in the sandbox, like Johnny Depp in Transcendence.
He's the guy, and apparently he's the guy that, like, anytime they're developing a game, like, aside from the sandbox thing, they just sit down with him and they're like, what do you think of this? And he's like, he's just like, gives the thumb. He's like, he's that like could be
Caesar,
bad.
He gives the thumbs up
like,
or down.
Thumbs up or thumbs down. He's like, nah, that's dumb. Do this. The players like this better. Like, he somehow has this, like, instinctual idea of what might work over other things, because it's not like he's not doing I mean, he doesn't do the day-to-day stuff for the Civ games.
Oh no,
obviously.
I imagine it's like Miyamoto, where he's like creative fellow, where it's just like they keep him employed as kind of like a. Do you think he does that for like all the other 2K games? Like they go to him and it's like, all right, we're doing 2K, NBA 2K 2020 like 4.
I would be
they
interested.
have to hope he gives him the thumbs up.
I would actually kind of be interested seeing who Sid Meier meets in like a regular day. Like who's calling him, seeking his advice. Same thing for Miyamoto. Like do people just go for advice?
Miyamoto's an interesting one because he's been developing the theme park for the past like 4 years, but now that that's done, it's like what's the next thing? And he worked on Pikmin 4, and it's like, yeah, but what does work on mean? Like, was he? Because I can't imagine he was doing the modeling or like doing the programming or anything, but I imagine he might have been looking at the design docs and being like, yay or nay on stuff like that. So
like breaks out they give him a draft of the design doc, he breaks out a red pen, like makes his notes and then throws it back to them.
Yeah, exactly. More Iochi. Even more Iochi.
So we're in chapter 10, I believe.
Yes.
We got the cage. But Bowser is able to keep them pinned down with suppressing fire. Speaking of XCOM.
Yes. Bowser activated kill zone. Don't go into his line of fire.
And then Toad says something about it being hopeless, and that reminds Mario about the envelope. Yes. Hey, now we got a callback here, and Mario opens the envelope, and basically the note inside tells Mario that each of the mushrooms also casts a spell when thrown.
Yes.
So one by one, they take turns throwing the mushrooms at Bowser, and like the black one is like a smoke bomb, and then the green one,
the red one does fire bombs. It's kind of very Mario Karty. Like they all turn into sort of like classic Mario weapons, which is, and basically that's just throwing the Bowser. Bowser's just like, stop! This is annoying. Stop doing.
Bowser's like, please stop! I don't like this.
I'm not a fan of this.
One of them's a giant bouncy ball that hits him in the face.
And I was trying to figure out what that was a reference to. I know that in Mario Brothers 3, some of the Koopalings are just like, what do they call it? Like in a circus, like on a gymnast when they balance on a ball. It's sort of like that kind of, like a sort of a trapeze thing. So I wondered if it was a reference to that. But
just like the Koopa kids doing their little thing.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it could also just be Tracy West being like, ball. One of them's a ball. Why did I write
bouncy
6?
Why is it the 6 mushrooms? Why couldn't it be 3 mushrooms?
Why wasn't it just one mushroom? Mario and here we go, Scholastic. I've written this pamphlet for you. Mario and the quest for the one mushroom.
Mario and the super special mushroom. So the fireball mushroom, which is the last one, knocks Bowser out of a window. And
yeah, it does.
They rescue the princess, and then Mario grabs the book of spells for Cronus's wife. I don't think Bowser will need this anymore. And somewhere in a deep, mysterious forest, the sorceress smiled back. The end. No more writing. The end. Hard end.
I nearly sent you an email. I nearly sent you a message about this because I did the PDF conversion. I was like, oh, did this cut it off? Like, why did it just end here? So then I had a look at the EPUB and I was like, oh no, it's just, wait, it just ends. Yeah, and then I had a look and it was like, yeah, that's just where it ends. It just ends on, like, gunshot fade to black of somewhere deep in the mysterious forest, the sorceress smiled back. Boom, cut to black, Linkin Park, doesn't really matter. Executive producer credit. Directed by Michael Bay.
I've come so far. And in the end, it doesn't really matter. James, what did you think of the book overall?
I thought it was okay. We did kind of gloss over it a little bit, but I will say, compared to when I was here last time and I read the Bionic Commando book, the main criticism I had the Commando book was that basically it was very kind of like, Kids Clancy in regards to they were trying to describe like a lot of action scenes of, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he did, and like just over and over. This does have action scenes in it, but they do try and like, it's very dialogue heavy, and they do try and make it quite cutesy. There isn't a lot of like actual combat in it. Like with the paratrooper thing was like, he jumped on the paratrooper and he lost his wings. Then he jumped again and he turned into a shell. And then he jumped again and whoosh, he was gone. So, all very kind of friendly kids writing. And again, like, it borrows a lot from Mario RPG, which is like the most kind of character-filled and story-focused of that. I do like the puzzle element, even though they give away all the answers like immediately, which is a shame.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I haven't really got a lot of complaints about a book which I think was probably aimed at 10-year-olds for Mario.
Yeah,
I am annoyed I didn't get my. I am annoyed I didn't get my stickers though. That's the thing that has lasted with this.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I thought it was fine. I was comparing it to in my head. So my daughter just read Charlotte's Web for school.
Yes.
And she's 10. So I was like, all right, well, Charlotte's Web is a book with pretty complex themes and, you know, all that stuff. It's a kid's book, but, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about that in comparison to this. And I was like, all right, so what age is this for? Is it for 10 or is it for younger? I don't know. And then I got distracted and didn't really follow up on that thought. But it's not like something I wouldn't give it to my daughter.
No, this is a bit, so maybe 10's a bit, I think you would have to even be a bit younger.
7, 8. This is like 7, 8, I think. Probably. So, yeah, it's fine. I think it does a good job of like not being very repetitive. Like in terms of beats,
a lot of variety.
There's variety in locations and pulls in a lot of Mario stuff. And the only weird thing I'll say about it is that it's Mario talks a lot.
Yeah.
Like an unnerving amount. Even with the Chris Pratt Mario Brothers movie in the back of my mind, it still feels like an unnerving amount of dialogue from Mario.
Yeah, and even then, like, Toad and Luigi, the way that they're written, they are goofy, like, kind of like, as you'd imagine, like, sidekick characters would be, and you would kind of need that level of writing. But like, the fact that they made Mario kind of the level-headed one, again, like, that kind of dialogue doesn't feel right coming out of his mouth. Again, not to brag too much on a book which is written for literal children.
Literal children. That hasn't stopped us before.
That's true. I was gonna say, so like, assuming this is like the bedrock for like the youngest possible person this was written for, what's like the book that what's something that you've written for this podcast, which is like probably aimed at like the oldest person possible?
Okay, so something we've read for this podcast that is like in terms of reading level, like
comprehension or just like the subject matter, I guess.
Probably the Far Cry novelization that we read.
Interesting.
Because the author is stylistically, the author was very Cormac McCarthy. And the subject matter has to do with like, it's based on Far Cry 5, which has a lot to do, like one of the guys has
about
like
extremists and stuff.
And like cutting people's flesh off and nailing it to a wall. There's some really, really heavy stuff in that book. So I'd probably say the Far Cry novelization is
fair enough. And you would say that the level of reading comprehension for that as well is a little bit more kind of
it's definitely aimed at adults.
And then Joseph Seed said this, and then Joseph Seed did this kind of thing.
And then he cut off the skin on the woman's forehead and nailed it to the wall. Praise be the seed or whatever.
Oh God, I barely remember Far Cry 5, and I considering the fun I got out of Far Cry 5, I was like, well, if it was just the story with none of the gameplay in it, it's like, oh God. So.
Yeah, imagine like the David Cage version of Far Cry 5. It's just the story, straight up uncut story very little gameplay.
See, now I'm imagining that there probably is a novelization of Heavy Rain out there, which you may have to end up doing on the pod.
Heavy Rain.
You're looking at it just in case.
No, there's a book called Heavy Rain, but it doesn't look like it's about
the Origami Killer.
Yeah, there's several books titled Heavy Rain. Doesn't look like it's from the David Cage Heavy Rain. So
you dodged a bullet there.
Dodged a bullet there. David Cage novelization. Okay. No, it doesn't seem to come up. I'll dig into it.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess at this point in the show, I always ask Phil one question. And that question is, what are you playing?
Oh boy. Well, I have been playing 2 games recently, if I'm allowed to quickly go into them. It's been funny, actually, because obviously we're recording this and it's towards end of year, and it's like, all the big goaty stuff has kind of come out now, and I've got, well, apart from Baldur's Gate 3, which I think my plan is sometime next year to make a start on that, just because I can't imagine a ton of stuff is coming out, so I will be...
Yeah, 2024 seems a little droughty so far from what I've seen.
It's a bit of a dry. Like, I know that Like a Dragon Infinite Net Wealth is out like right at the beginning of February, but like I still haven't gotten to any of the Accusers yet, so that'll be some time.
Seems like a good backlog year.
Oh yeah, so Baldur's Gate 3 I think will be part of that. But 2 games I've been playing at the moment, one which is on mobile, one which is on my PC. The mobile game I've been playing is Sonic Dream Team, which is a iOS exclusive, but it's interesting because obviously Sonic the Hedgehog game came out a couple of months ago, Sonic Superstars, which was like it's 2D presentation, but it's 3D rendering, but it's done in the style of Mania. I didn't like it massively based on what I had played, but Sonic Dream Team feels like, this feels like another step in, making a Sonic game, as in like, it's a little bit of forward kind of running kind of obstacle course stuff, but then you have these little open areas, and it's a little bit more like almost kind of Tony Hawk-y in a weird way. Like It's a lot more about kind of using the environment to build up speed and get like little trinkets and stuff. Like every level kind of has like, it's like Mario 64. Like every level has 6 objectives to complete, and it's like beat it in this amount of time or get this amount of trinkets and stuff. It's very cute. Does make my phone run very hot though. So if you're going to play it, I would suggest have a more up-to-date Apple device. I think this will probably work. It works on iPad. It works on Apple TV. Basically anything that supports Apple Arcade. The other game that I have been playing is one that I kickstarted a few years ago, and it's finally come out. It is a RPG called Knuckle Sandwich. Have you heard of this?
I have not. Okay,
so Knuckle Sandwich is an interesting one. So the reason that I backed it and what I've been quite enjoying about it is that it is like if Baldur's Gate 3 is like a throwback to old PC CPRPGs and like obviously Bill's and Larian's work on stuff, this is very much a throwback to GBA stuff. So like Mother 3 and like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. So there was kind of like a little bit more streamlined kind of overworld stuff, but also like the combat is very active. So like if you're like, you don't just like press a menu item and then like the attack plays out. Like they also expect you to do like a little mini game, like to, time it whatever. But
like time it with the jump or whatever.
Yeah. But old Knuckle Sandwich goes a step further in that all of these interactions are done in the style of WarioWare microgames. So like there's an attack which is called like beat down, and like it brings up a little window and it's like beat down, here's the inputs, go, and then you have to like mash your buttons and it plays this little animation to do that. Or there's one where it's like defend yourself, and it's like you have to do like a DDR style thing to like basically there's like all these little micro games for like each little different thing. But then the game itself, The plot I haven't quite dug into yet, but the presentation's really good. It flip-flops between like this really like on-point GBA sprite rendering, but then sometimes it does like DS style 3D where it's like low poly and very kind of texture driven, but then it does like Game Boy Color stuff when it's doing like flashes to the past. It's really interesting, and all made by a single guy called Andrew Brophy. He did the like the graphics, the music, the programming and stuff like that. And yeah, I would say so far it's been it was worth the wait. I'm slowly working through it at the moment, and
interesting.
Yes, been pretty good. What about you? What have you been playing?
Let's see. I have been playing. The big thing I've been playing is Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader, which is it's a lot of fun. It's also, I mean, I Baldur's Gate 3 basically was like, oh yeah, fuck, I do like CRPGs, don't I? It reminded me of that. So I got Rogue Trader, and it's very much, if you're coming to it from Baldur's Gate 3, like, don't expect the polish that's in Baldur's Gate 3 to be in Rogue Trader.
Sure, yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3, literally every line in the entire goddamn game is voice acted.
Oh god, right. So what do you do in Rogue Trader then? Like, what's it? So like, where does it? Like, what do you do in the 40K universe? Basically?
So yeah, you're playing as a character who, when you start the game, is the heir to a house. You're just informed that you're the heir to a house called the Von Valencia's house, which is that house owns a trade warrant, which in the 40K universe, from what I understand, basically gives it gives you the title of Rogue Trader, and it lets you have almost full autonomy outside of the Imperium, the Imperium of Man's government. So like, it takes place in a section called the Kronos Expanse, which is basically which is like far outside of like the settled area of space. And it's like, all right, these rogue traders, they're the first ones out there, and it's kind of like the Wild West, basically, for Warhammer 40K. There isn't, don't expect a lot of support from the Imperium out there. So yeah, there's like a tutorial mission where, and you know, you go through all the how to play and all that stuff, all the major gameplay elements, which include, there's the combat portion, and then there's like the portion where making decisions in dialogue options kind of takes you down one of three paths, which are iconoclastic, dogmatic, and heretical. Obviously, in heretical sense, that's usually not a safe way to go in the 40K universe, but you can if you want to. Yeah, after this like opening segment, you are now in control of the ship, your character, and you have to go around and just start rebuilding the ship after it was attacked. And I just got to the end towards the end, I think, of the first chapter of the game, which is still basically just like introducing all the systems in it. And I put about like 10 hours into the game, and that's including me restarting it, because with CRPGs, inevitably I start the game with one build, play around for like a few hours, and then go and restart it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like something else. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's very, reminds me a bit of Fallout. And it almost makes me think, like, when I see these new CRPGs, I'm like, God damn it, Bethesda, we could have a Fallout. We could have a classic CRPG Fallout. You know, it's not like it has to be like,
it doesn't have to be first person. It doesn't have to be
first person.
Game.
Just give us that. It also uses cover mechanics, kind of like XCOM, half cover and full cover, which is neat. The whole system is kind of tough to I haven't totally gotten it yet because it's different than any other system I've played. But I'm slowly getting there. I mean, it's still based on dice rolls behind the scenes. It's still based on dice rolls. But the calculation of it is it's whatever Games Workshop does. So
Sure.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the big one I've been playing. Otherwise, on my Steam Deck, sometimes at night, I've been playing Stasis Bone Totem.
I've never heard of that.
So years ago, not that long ago, a few years ago, I'd say 2015 or 16, there was a game called Stasis, which was a point-and-click horror game. It's like isometric point-and-click, and you're just kind of like going around. It's spooky and all that, and it was very difficult because you like if you solve it was one of those games where if you solve the puzzle wrong, your character, it's not like you get another chance, your character just fucking dies. Like, oh, you put the wrong thing in the thing exploded, your character got something on them and they melted into a puddle. Stuff like that. Stasis Bone Totem, they've kind of learned a little bit that's a little bit frustrating. So the first time I solved the puzzle wrong and my character died, instead of like starting me back at the last save, it just started me back right there and unlocked a like, you found the first death or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like, you just keep playing, keep going.
Yeah.
You have seen that death scene once. It won't happen. And even if you solve it wrong again, it doesn't play the death scene again. You can just keep playing. It just like turns off the death for that puzzle once you experience it the first time.
Interesting.
So yeah. It's an interesting little game. I haven't gotten too far into it, but it's a lot of fun so far.
Lovely.
Yeah. So James, why don't you go ahead and plug where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. You can probably still find me at this point over on X brackets, formerly Twitter, at HotCyder. I'm still making videos at the moment as well. I'm hoping to have, because we're recording this around Christmas time, I am working on two things at the moment, which I do not think will be going out either before or even after Christmas. These might come in right at the beginning of January, so that might time up well with this. But got a couple of other things at the bike. Hoping to have Bullet Time back at some point as well. I've planned episodes, but just need to pull the trigger on actually playing those games and getting them recorded. So keep an eye out. I'm always working on stuff. So and hey, I'm always happy to come back here as well. So
yeah, when we're always glad to have you. As for us, you can find Pixelit Pod on X, on Twixter and Instagram and all the other platforms, Blue Sky, wherever. Yeah. You can find us on, just search at Pixelit Pod. You can find us there. If you go to pixelitpod.com, you'll just be redirected right over to our Patreon page. You can go to patreon.com/pixelitpod. If you really, really love us, you can throw us some money. We have 3 tiers, $1, $5, and $10. $10 gets you a shout out at the end of the episode. And we have more people to shout out now. Actually, let me look up, because this is the first time I'm shouting out these additional folks. Wow. Yeah, here we go. Audience. Who do we got? We got all right, so our traditional friendly friend, you've been shouted out forever. Thank you so much, friendly friend. We also have Jesus Loves You. Lord, I hope he does. And Ruthless Mutter. Thank you so much for being our geek scholars, throwing us $10 a month. We truly, truly appreciate it. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, everybody, and have a good evening.